All right, Kev, let's invite you. Here we go. Invite Kev. There he is. All right, let's make sure we're not getting any feedback sound here, Kev. So let's turn down our laptop volumes.
Yep.
There we go. All right, whoever just joined, are you guys getting any sound feedback? No sound feedback? Hi, whoever just said hi. No sound feedback? No? I'm going to assume that there's no sound feedback. All right, guys. Well, this is the first time we're doing this, that I'm doing this, at least doing a live on the Conscious Profits Unfiltered show. So whoever's on IG joining us, thanks for joining us. And you'll see us kind of like looking up and down because we got multiple cameras and whatnot, you know, but that's how it's going to be. So, Kev, bro, welcome to the show, man. Thanks for being on again, man.
Yeah, Seb, it's great to be back. I'm stoked to dive into these topics, man.
Love it, brother. You are the first one to be on. You're the first one to be re-invited to the pod, bro. So you're a special human.
I love it. Let's do the repeat.
Yeah, brother. So I always start my shows by asking the same question, which I've already asked in the past, which is, when was your last oh shit moment? But I'm not going to ask that because you've already heard it. So I'm going to ask you, when was your last fuck yeah moment?
Yeah, the last fuck yeah moment for me was actually last week. Re-signed this amazing client I've been working with for about a year now. He's like a Web3 founder, very deep in crypto and blockchain space. And just watching him in real time with his corporate team get how vulnerability and accountability and communication, especially with like a team environment, is a KPI. And like got to see that in real time as I was facilitating a session for all of them. And that's just the first thing that came up. I was also thinking about it and talking about it this morning.
Love that, man. Congrats. That's awesome. That's beautiful. So Kev, I typically tie seemingly unrelated subjects to the subject matter of conscious business, conscious leadership at the end of the podcast, but I don't want to do that. I actually want to bring it up first. And I want to, because I want to establish why it's important about everything that we're going to talk about, how it's going to tie at the end here, but really in the beginning is, so why do you believe that an optimal conscious relationship with great sex, communication, polarity, all the things, why does that matter to business or for us as being conscious leaders in the world?
Yeah, this is an amazing question, and there's so many layers here. The basic layer, I think, is what we don't want, and which is what a lot of people think works, which is compartmentalization, right? So here's the bucket of my business and like, my vision and, I'm a founder, I'm doing X, Y, Z as an entrepreneur, corporate, whatever. And that has its own energy and its own circuit, and it's over here. And then over here in a different bucket, and they don't really talk, is my intimate life, right? The most intimate thing, right? Your relationship, your sexuality, your intimacy, your emotion, your core needs getting met, your romance, your love. And both of those are going to have to be connected consciously because they're deeply connected unconsciously already. So in my view or thesis is like, let's consciously connect them together. Doesn't mean you need to bring your relationship stuff, good or bad, into the workspace. It doesn't mean you bring the workspace stuff back home into the bedroom. But understand that the energy is connected. And if you're successful in one, it's likely going to predict success in the other. Either way. And a lot of people would say, well, it's not true because blah, blah, blah. I can, still be a badass, closer over here, but my, ex-wife hates me and blah, blah. It's like, well, yeah, you can do that.
You can, yeah.
But is it consistent? Is it in alignment? And will that work long term?
And if you can do that and you're still, performing at a high level in business and work, you believe you're being a good leader and all that, and you have a horrible relationship at home or a horrible romantic relationship, what would it be like if you actually optimize that relationship? You don't know how much better you could actually be too. So even if you're good, how much better could you be if all that checks in,
Totally. And this is kind of one of the angles I especially take with men, although a lot of women entrepreneurs want this too, is high performance. You know, well fucked, fully expressed, embodied individuals are going to be better at everything, including sales, marketing, decision making, strategy, whatever. It's just true. And there's a whole nother level of the emotional intelligence side, or when you're actually intimately getting all your needs met and feeling seen and acknowledged and safe in your romantic or love container. That brings a whole nother level of empathy, of compassion, and subtlety into the business world, because it's going to make you better at communicating with everyone around you, all human beings, because you're a safe place for emotion, basically. And this is like, there's nuance and layers here, but there is real tangible things you can measure with this, especially around, social intelligence and how your team feels about you, or how people want to work with you.
And that's essentially a big part, or the essence of conscious leadership, everything that you're just talking about, all of those traits. So if you're in a conscious relationship, romantically, you're much more likely to show up as a conscious leader. You're much more likely to run your business as a conscious business, as something that has a purpose beyond just making money. So this is the subject of my podcast. And although that's not what we're going to be spending the majority of the time talking about, we're going to talk about a bunch of other fun stuff, love, sex, money, and how that all ties into everything. But that's why it is important. So Kev, you talk about polarity a lot. So give us the 101 on polarity. What is it? Why does it matter?
Totally. I mean, polarity at its basic level is the interplay of two poles, right? Think about a magnet, positive, negative pole. Think about yin and yang. They're complementary, but also they can be oppositional. They're symbiotic, but they are different, and the differences matter, right? And so when we're talking about men and women, or masculinity and femininity, and again, I want to make the distinction here. This energy also exists in everyone, male and female bodies. And this dynamic, when it comes to relationships, will apply to same-sex couples and non-binary couples. So and I would invite anyone to situate themselves in the context, because it's still going to apply. Now, basic idea here is masculine energy is direct, decisive, it's strategic, it's leader energy. Right? We can call it alpha, whatever. And that is a manifestation of what most men will be best at, right? So it makes them really successful at business, war, hunting, all the traditional tribal roles of the man. And it's real and it exists. And you can, experience this for yourself. A lot of it's mental, a lot of it is consciousness and presence, but it's also action, right? It's decisiveness, boom. Feminine energy on the other side, the yin side, most women are going to manifest more feminine energy on average. And this is not the opposite, but different in that it is intuitive, it's in the moment, it's much more emotional, it's sensation, and it's very skilled, right? Think of the gatherer, the medicine woman, think about the mother, the lover, the nurturer, the social architect. The feminine energy is going to be very good at social cues, emotional intelligence, tracking the tribe, internal resource management, and also nurturing, right? There's also a very sexual and sensual aspect to this that is just fertility, right? If you look at the female body, but the feminine energy is fertility in the energetic or philosophical sense of that. It's creativity, it's life force overflowing, right? And these are in all of us. Learning the art of polarity, the whole idea in relationships and dating or courtship or even a long-term relationship or marriage, is when you embody these and actually learn the art of the dance of these, everything becomes better. Communication, sexuality, intimacy, etc.
Love that. Love that. What do you feel are key feminine qualities that a man must embody?
Yeah, so as a man, especially if you're masculine dominant in your polarity, let's say, or you're energetic, the feminine energy is going to be important to learn how to rest and receive. So if you need healing, of any kind, physical, mental, spiritual, if you need to receive information or go into a yin state, which is a KPI, rest and recovery, it's going to be important to understand some feminine energy in yourself. Emotions are going to go into this category as well, and vulnerability. right? Whether that's with a partner, with other men, or your village, basically, your community. So it's going to be really important for men to be able to go into the receptivity, to open their heart, to manifest some more of those tendencies. And this is going to make them much more resilient and emotionally stable and pleasant to be around. It's going to make them a better lover and intimate partner. It's also going to make them more able to connect with other people and have compassion and empathy instead of getting stuck in an ideology or a mindset that's going to prevent them from connection.
And what about on the flip side, Kev? What are masculine qualities for a female to embody?
Yeah.
Or to focus on? Yeah.
Sure. For a lot of women, I think, especially since 1950s, 60s, where birth control comes out, third wave feminism, all the stuff that's been happening to kind of create equality of outcome or equality of opportunity for men and women, which are not the same. But a lot of women, a lot of female beings, who are feminine-led in their energy are manifesting more masculine energy because they want to enter the workforce. They want to launch a brand. They want to be a CEO. They want to have a business. A lot of single mothers will have to manifest this because they'll have to hold the masculine and feminine pole in their family. So that's unfortunately very common. There's a lot of single mothers. And, in a general sense, a woman will want to manifest masculine energy when she wants to hold herself and contain herself and structure her reality. This can be financial. This can be taking care of those kids. It can also just be she's on a quest to become the fittest, most creative, most successful, entrepreneur or, founder, whatever. And I see this, it's very common with the entrepreneurial women I end up working with a lot.
And so going back to the masculine, Kev, I feel like I feel like there could be like a bit of a fear in a lot of men nowadays to really be in their masculine and not feel like they're being overly aggressive or doing the wrong thing or saying the wrong thing, and I understand where that respect can come from, right? Because a lot of us men that are also sensitive, they're very open and are also very accepting, and we don't. How does a man step into his masculine without being overly aggressive?
Right. Well, there's a difference here between the wording, right? Aggression is, a manifestation of violence of some kind, right? It can be energetic, right. Whatever. And aggression has a place to set a very strong boundary. Like, for example, the idea of righteous indignation or anger. Like if someone is being attacked or harmed or someone close to you, aggression is important. You need to have that killer instinct and the fight energy. It's actually important in some very nuanced situations. Most of the time, in the business world or in your relationships or in dating or in your community, you're going to be wanting to manifest assertion. So assertiveness can be confused with aggression, but the difference is it's attuned. So there's attunement and awareness of the situation. And, in a world of the culture wars and everyone getting triggered about everything, right. This can get demonized as toxic masculinity. But assertion is very powerful because it sets a boundary. It's like, here's the boundary, here's the structure, here's what we're going to do. It's going to change the environment. Let's make a decision. And we're going to be assertive in a masculine expression of that. And I think when you don't do that, what we have is a lot of confusion, a lot of men feeling like they're emasculated, a lot of people pleaser coming out, and a lot of inauthenticity actually, because this is an instinctual level, energy that most men actually need to manifest to be healthy. Women can also manifest it, but men are going to be specifically served by that energy.
And that's interesting that you say it about being inauthentic in that form, because what can not being authentic do in terms of who you're attracting to your life, right? If like that's a big deal.
That's huge.
Yeah,
and a lot of folks are wearing that mask, right?
Yeah, and so in terms of, in regards to being assertive, is that a lot have to do with the delivery of how you're being assertive, and how you put a certain idea together with confidence, without being overpowering, being accepting?
Totally. The delivery is everything. your body language, your tonality, the words you choose, eye contact. That's where it's going to start. The nuance here is, who are you speaking to? And you need to understand that. So the conscious man, the embodied man, the aligned masculine is going to be very aware of that because he's tracking it, right? Masculine is really good at that, tracking, assessing the environment, understanding what the impact of the action is going to be, but also taking an action. Assertion is needed here, a boundary is needed here, a decision is needed here. Make it, own it, and then be accountable. Because if you fuck up, and you will fuck up, be accountable to that and be willing to say, I'm sorry, I apologize, I was wrong. So that's the other side of this I think a lot of people are afraid of, right?
Yeah, I feel like the key that I'm hearing there is awareness beforehand, awareness during, awareness after. Like, that's
Bingo.
the bottom line there, right? Yeah, Kev, I was watching one of your older vids about why should a man make the first move? Why is that a thing? Why should it be that way?
Yeah, it's going to be a case-by-case basis. Some individuals will, in a dynamic, want the feminine to go first. But I think that's the exception, not the rule. The masculine really excels at initiating, right? And certainly in a business deal, the recipient being on the receptive side, the feminine side, whatever, you want the offer to be made, right? Think about in terms of offer. This is something we play with in comedy improv as well. This is in acting, this is in business and sales. What's on offer and who's making the offer? That's a masculine energetic. In the dating arena specifically, which is obviously where most people experience this, there is an epidemic of a lot of folks, wanting strong masculine partners. A lot of women have been sharing this idea, certainly in the conscious community. I've heard it a lot. And it's because the man is, even in the classic, like, I don't know, where do you want to go eat? I'm just kind of going with the flow. I'll check in with you later. What's the plan? Instead of like claiming desire, making a plan. I'll pick you up at 7, be ready, we're going here, boom, done. Most feminine women, that's going to be really great for them. They're going to love that. And you can ask a lot of women that are in their feminine, that's what they're seeking. Unfortunately, with texting and dating apps and Instagram and all the things, this can kind of get watered down or lost because some men are resentful. They don't feel like they should go first or have to, which, okay, fair enough. They've been hurt and had bad experiences. And a lot of women want to go first, maybe for whatever reason. What you have to understand, though, is the impact of that and how it actually plays into the attraction dynamics.
Yeah, that's super interesting. So guys out there listening to that, just put that time out, man. The time, the place, location, put it out there. And hey, look, if they don't want that, they're going to let you know, right? Let you know you have some options. Kev, I got a quote from you. At its core, the masculine wants to be deeply respected. The feminine wants to be wildly loved. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I'm playing with kind of some of the core needs there. For men, especially in relationship, respect is big. We want to be acknowledged for our prowess, our purpose, and manifesting our greatness, not just in our career, but in our body, our life, our emotionality. That's deep, deep, deep for the masculine. And I think most men out there who are masculine beings will find this if you look at actually what you most want. It's that respect from other men as well, but certainly from your partner. And it's just a nuance because for the feminine core essence, she wants to be in that radiant beauty and she wants to be seen. She wants to be loved and heard and like witnessed and beheld. And obviously the very obvious version of this is physicality, physical beauty, right? In any shape or form it takes. That's just part of the feminine experience. And you can, mind fuck yourself out of that and make all these fancy arguments around, well, it's not about that. Beauty's not skin deep. Yes, that's true. But the feminine wants to be loved. And so this is with action. This is with witnessing and being seen, beheld, and also, feeling safe that she's loved for who she is in the moment, in the present moment. Because the feminine's always changing, right? She's very volatile and chaotic in a beautiful way, like nature. It's like the ocean. There's storms, there's waves, it's changing. There's an uncertainty to it, which is actually wildly attractive to the masculine. And this is why they work together.
That's beautiful, man. I love that. What about communication, Kev? Masculine versus feminine communication. Which one is needed when?
Right. I mean, there's a lot to unpack there. On the basic level, masculine communication is going to be great to set the frame or the container. So just like with that dating example, here's what we're doing, here's when, here are the parameters. This is what I want. Boom. Penetrate with strategy, with the plan, right? That's the masculine energy. And that's extremely effective in business. It's also extremely effective in a relationship when the man is leading in the masculine energy. Feminine communication can be more subtle, yin, and receptive. It can be into the void. It can be more like, this is what I'm feeling. This is what I desire to experience. This feels good. This doesn't feel good. I would really love more of this. And it's signaling desire. So it's much more in the moment. It's signaling how she's feeling moment to moment. And a skilled feminine being in her core feminine will be able to do this masterfully. And this is why, the queen, or you see like a Beyonce, a J-Lo, some of the women that are really popular that I think manifest a lot of the feminine core, red carpets will be rolled out for them. People want to do things for them. Everyone will magnetize to them, especially masculine men will be like super attracted to them. But also other women will want to be in their presence because they're full life force and they're responsive with it. Responsiveness is actually a master code for feminine communication.
Right on, brother. Let's talk a little bit about sex. A buddy of mine a long time ago, I just came up with this random analogy that sex is like a referee in a soccer game, right? So the reason is that if you have a really great referee, well, it's not going to affect the soccer game in any way, shape, or form. It's not going to affect the outcome of it, right? If you have a really bad referee, it's going to completely ruin the game, right? So same in that sense, sex, right? I don't think that great sex should dictate a relationship. It should not dictate it at all, the outcome or really, any of it. But bad sex or no sex can completely ruin a relationship. So what do you think about that? And what do you think the importance is there?
Yeah, I mean, I love this idea of, a ref calling a bad foul and just completely ruining the game. This is where the conversation around trauma and being somatically informed and, understanding wounding around, our sexuality, which is a very deep, intimate, vulnerable place, maybe the most vulnerable. It's also the most powerful. It's literally what creates life. So there's a sacredness to it, and it's all going to come down to communication. So there's this idea of the trauma bond, or there's this funny meme where it's like, the most men rate, there's actually a study, men rate their best sexual encounters with, quote, emotionally unstable women. And the meme was like, women are like, you're welcome. And why that is, I imagine, is because when the wounds are at play in sexuality, think about attachment styles, think about, erotic blueprints, there's all these different metrics you can play with. But the energy is really intense. There's a lot of adrenaline, there's a lot of passion, there's a lot of maybe trauma. And that can sexually be very charged and amazing in the short term. Now, creating a partnership or a structure of long-term relationship, or maybe even, marriage or having kids, it's going to be very volatile if there isn't a playing field, back to the soccer metaphor, of rules, agreements, boundaries, and communication. So sexuality is, the barometer of where the relationship is at, I think in a lot of cases. If you make it at the center, which it is at the center, even when it's not, and Freud and a lot of these psychoanalytic traditions talk about it like this. We are, primal beings. We want to fuck. And there's no way to avoid that. It's always there. Like sexuality is present. And this is the idea of sexual tension and that energy. So in my mind, to kind of answer your original question, is sexuality is extremely important. It can make or break a relationship. Communication about it and bringing it to the table, and just as importantly as where are we going to live, or what is the relationship going to look like, or your history of your parents, all the things you'd want to discuss with a partner, sexuality needs to be approached in that way and taken very seriously. and not taken for granted, right?
Mm. Yeah, I agree. Big time. Kev, what happens? You got a couple working with you, and one of the partners feels that having sex once every 10 days is perfect, it's great. And then the other one feels that they want to have sex 3, 4 times a week, and they feel that that's healthy. How do you approach that? Is someone right? Someone wrong?
Yeah, this is a big one. Comes up a lot.
Yeah.
Libido is different for everyone, for sure. Um, when the couple is actually in their embodiment, so there's a lot that goes into that, right? So that means they're physically healthy because a lot of this stuff is endocrine hormonal based, right? Which is diet, sun, exercise, cold, hot exposure. There's all these physiological factors that are going to affect that. And it's energetic. So it's emotional, it's based on attraction, it's based on these things. There's going to have to be some kind of meeting in the middle. And this is where self-pleasure is amazing. And obviously, just because you're in a relationship doesn't mean you don't, love your own body. And so that's going to be important to have that conversation. I would guess in a lot of situations, though, the person with the less libido is going through something or is feeling unexpressed in a way. Now, there are people that just have less libido. There are individual differences. But on average, if the relationship was really good, there's emotional connection, intimacy, the communication's clear, all other things being equal, I imagine the less libido partner would actually like to be having sex more. And this comes into the conversation of, well, are they getting their needs met? Are they actually feeling, orgasmic and alive and they love having sex versus are they seeing it more as, is this the only way we connect? Is this a duty or obligation? It needs to look a certain way, right? So there's a lot of stuff that can get in the way of that.
Yeah, I've definitely found that myself personally, or even just hearing stories of, when I was in X relationship, I actually didn't care to have sex, or I hardly wanted sex. And now that I'm in this relationship, I'm like a totally different person, and they're like shocked that they feel like a completely different person. That's what you're talking about. It's those needs being met. It's the communication. It's that energy that's actually changing physically, the libido desire. It's gnarly. Kev, I find that money is such an interesting topic, man. Dude, I fucking love talking about money with close friends and my relationships. I really, really do. And I mean, I've personally had all the scenarios myself. I've been in romantic relationships where money is not talked about at all, or it's talked about a little bit. Sometimes it's cool, and then other times a little bit too much. And then I've had it where it's completely out in the open, every aspect of it. And I feel like that's definitely the right way to go. That's epic, right? I mean, why is it so taboo? Why is money such a taboo subject for so many people? And why do you think that, if you agree with me, that it should be talked about and it should be all out in the open?
Yeah, I do agree with you on that. If this is the holy trinity or the dark trinity of humanity right now, and it plays out no matter where you look, money, sex, and power. Power can translate as influence. It can translate as leverage. There's a lot of ways. Power is a little more nuanced, but money and sexuality are where most trauma is, where most emotional attachments are, which most stories are. So narratives and beliefs and stories that a lot of which are not serving us or civilization. They're all here because that's where the energy is. The energy of biology is in the sexuality. It's in that drive, and the energy of trust or coordination between humans. If you really go into what is money is an energy. It's keeping score. It's a form of trust and value that's exchangeable because we're in communities and we got to figure out stuff. It's called the coordination problem. As soon as you have two humans, we have to figure out how we're going to relate, and money is what's doing that. And for better or worse, we all have a personal relationship to it. So money carries a lot of emotional baggage. I know I'm still in this work unpacking that. And that's also something that in coaching you have to go into is just, relationship to money. And that often, especially with business-minded clients, becomes a big issue because your parents had a view of money, right? A lot of people in scarcity, even people that were quite wealthy numerically, might still be scarcity emotionally, or how they relate to money, right? And one of my amazing mentors even had this term, you know, money dysmorphia. Just like we have body dysmorphia, a lot of people feel a certain way about their bank account, and they treat it that way, and then that comes into the relationship, because the whole conversation of, you know, provision, splitting money 50-50, how we relate to money, that's going to enter the relationship in a deep way. And this is why there's so many divorces, unfortunately, that money becomes the main point of contention and battle, right?
Yeah. Yeah, there's so much about it. And there's also, I feel that being really open about not just whether it's splitting or how to approach the money that you're making, all that, but like also talking about what is exactly coming in, what you're desiring, and really putting that out there and understanding why you desire it, you know, why, what it is, that what's your mission with that for both partners. And I feel that also allows it, it allows it for supporting creative ideas. Because at the end of the day, I feel that even if the partners have completely different careers, you know, one doesn't necessarily care much about what the other one does. I think that even if somebody, like person is not an expert at all on their partner's career, I think they can come in with a totally different mindset and a totally great creative ideas on how that person can make a shift, and that could actually cause them to make more money. And if they're not sharing things about money and talking about their missions and their passions and their goals, that doesn't happen.
Right. And this is true intimacy, right? If you're going to be open with a person and vulnerable and be in that loving, like, you know, ride or die, like, fuck, we're in this relationship level, money has to be there. Because most people are basing a lot of their waking time around money, acquiring it, earning it, investing it, spending it, etc.
And if you go back into the polarity aspect of it, is there something there in terms of the masculine and the feminine energy? Because you have a, you know, a giver and a receiver. Does that say, I don't know how to really even ask the question, but does that mean that the masculine energy has to be the provider, and that in turn turns into the masculine energy must make more money?
Yeah, I mean, this is a big question, and it comes up a lot. It's going to be an individual basis, as with a lot of this stuff. The short answer is it depends. The energetic philosophical answer is the masculine is generally in provision, right? And the facts is that the masculine core is going to be better strategically, on average, more able to take on stress. And because of the warlike or trade, you know, you can look at the hunter archetype, the trader, the businessman, the general, you know, what those have in common is they're going to be really good at solving problems at scale. And that's why, you know, this idea that, you know, all business is male dominated, you know, the CEO statistics, all the statistics around companies and organizations, you know, it's all male dominated. And some people think that women should be in equal positions. It's like, well, the women, yes, we should create equality. I personally believe we should create equality of opportunity. Awesome. But enforcing equality of outcome doesn't make sense. And this points out kind of a truth that you're going to have to discover for yourself if you're listening to this, that the masculine is provider in terms of provisioning. So whether that's providing food, you know, whether that's providing protection physically, whether that's providing financials. Now, that doesn't mean that it has to be that way in your relationship. You might be the provider emotionally or psychologically. You might be the provider sexually, creating intimacy and safety. So there's different ways to bring that to the table in a relationship. Some women thrive being high net worth individuals and high performance, you know, alphas in business from a feminine place. But their masculine is the one doing that most of the time.
That's what I wanted to point out. I wanted to point out, somebody listening, is that how you're flipping and switching from the words from man, woman, masculine, feminine. So that doesn't mean that it's not meant to be a woman, but that the woman in her masculine is the one that's doing this aspect of it.
Usually, you know, there are women in their feminine, I think in the coaching, consulting, healer space, that are quite successful because you know, a lot of them are teaching this, and they're very feminine embodied, and yet they're very successful financially. But that works in that space. I think it also works for artists, some artists. If you're more in traditional finance, if you're in, you know, tech, if you're in a lot of the major industries that are booming right now, if you look at the female-bodied beings that are crushing it, they are quite masculine energetically. And I would say that's across the board. And for good reason, right? Because those qualities are super successful in that environment, and it's amazing. When you come back to the bedroom, when you come back to the relationship, this is where the art of understanding how to shift, because most women that are very masculine oriented in business want to be more in their feminine in sexuality and their relationship home life,
Sure.
right?
And right there, Kev, something that we actually talked, I think, a little bit back 2 years ago on the first recording, but it's the importance. How important is it to bring feminine qualities into conscious leadership? It doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. You can be the CEO, and if you want to be a conscious leader, you have to embody feminine qualities along with your masculine qualities as well.
Yeah. I mean, the goal here, the esoteric goal of a lot of like religion and philosophy is like the alchemical marriage, is how they refer to it in Hermetic tradition. It's basically the union or the dissolving of opposites inside yourself, right? So think about this as enlightenment, to just go way out there. And that means masculine and feminine coming together in a magical harmony or balance. I've never seen it personally. I've never seen a human being manifest this. I can imagine what it feels like or it looks like as a philosopher, but most people are going to have to manifest some dynamic equilibrium between them. And I think the more dynamic that equilibrium is, the better leader you're going to be. So yes, short answer is yes. We want more feminine, energetic qualities in all kinds of leadership, whether that's business, government, community, relationship, because that's going to make you more empathic, intuitive, sensitive to emotional intelligence in the community and the tribal actual energy, whether you're running a team or you're coaching or you're running a family or you're a community leader in government, whatever. It's going to make you way better at leading because it's going to attune you to a lot more signal and information, which is what the feminine energy is really, really good at. And that's why they are masters of knowing who's into what, who's in what relationship, how's this person emotionally feeling, where are they at. Now, the other side of this is, as a leader, you're going to have to take action and be decisive. So as a leader, you're still going to need very strong masculine energy to actually take action and execute on that information and data.
Yeah, I love what you said there about the signaling and seeing all of the signals. And I think the flexibility aspect is so important. A good leader has to be flexible and then take the action in the direction that they want to go, right? And then just continue to take the signals, be flexible, and take the action. So definitely a huge dance there of both energies to be an epic conscious leader for sure. Kev, this is something I hear all the time with a lot of girlfriends of mine, girls that are friends. And guys say this too, but a lot of them say, I'm looking for somebody who is emotionally available and has done the work. And I hear that a lot. And so one of the things that I say to a homie will be like, let's change done the work to doing the work, first of all, because we're going to be doing the work until the day we die. Okay. That's the thing. How do you feel about this? Do you feel that in the quote unquote conscious community or more spiritual people, do you hear this a lot? This phrase?
Oh, on repeat. And done the work is telling us something interesting. Is why are they putting it in the past tense? I 100% agree with you. You never finish the work. We're doing it this whole lifetime. And if you believe in it, maybe we've been doing it multiple lifetimes. Now, done the work, though, probably implies that they want a certain level of emotional, spiritual maturity, period. So, done the initial work, right? So that means you have awareness of your blind spots, aka your shadow, or where you are, vulnerable to triggers, patterns, unconscious behavior. So you have some awareness about that and maybe some tools that you can navigate that. You also are probably aware of how you play out in a relationship dynamic. That's where the emotional availability paired with done the work comes from. Because a lot of us are navigating from past relationship trauma. So we were in relationships where it didn't work and they hadn't done the work and there wasn't emotional availability. So of course you want to move in the direction of, yes, I want that. Now, the flip side to asking, like, I just want a partner that da-da-da-da-da, is your question should be, am I fully doing the work and am I emotionally available to potential partners? You got to flip that one. That's how you're actually going to be successful, because you're going to put the ball back in your court.
That's right. And you attract the love that you are at the end of the day. So, yeah, I love that. I find it fascinating because more and more people are becoming more conscious about a lot of things that they want to attract and how they want to be in a relationship. And we get on a high horse, like, this is what I want. I want somebody who's this, and that, and has done all the work and this and that. And you're like, whoa, like, it's not about being realistic or unrealistic. It's like you said, like, you know, focus on yourself too. And then I think what's most important there is having the growth mindset. You know, if somebody's got that growth mindset, most likely they've done some work and they're willing to do more and continue to do it. And as things come up, they're going to continue to be willing to do it. And that kind of reminds me of something. There's so much work being around psychedelics today, right? And so, you know, when people do psychedelics, you have these epiphanies and you see something comes to a huge vision. You come out of that, you're like, my biggest takeaway was that I noticed this and that, and I saw this and I saw that. And we're talking about in an environment where there is an intention behind this, where it's more so ceremonial, right? That's what we're talking about here in terms of that. And I feel that this may just be like what I see is that, you know, it's like not 10% of it is the awareness and seeing it, but 90% of it is integration. And where's there's a lot of non-integration happening. There's a lot of awareness without integrating. How do you feel about the importance of integrating what we learn, what we see, or these epiphanies that we have?
Yeah, this is a big conversation. And as psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy and medicine becomes decriminalized and then hopefully legalized and created as a huge industry, which it already is, you know, it's popping up everywhere. This is going to be the main conversation, which is, well, let's talk about the indigenous way, right? Especially like things like ayahuasca, thousands of years of use, you know. If you're living in the Amazon and you're part of the Shipibo or the Yawanawa, you're drinking ayahuasca, you know, maybe every weekend, every Saturday, because it's like a psychic, like, swap meet for the tribe. And it's used in a ceremonial way as part of your lifestyle in the jungle and in the ambiance of that medicine and that teacher plant. So that's a whole nother universe than living in downtown Los Angeles and hiring a shaman or facilitator to drink ayahuasca to work on your marriage that didn't work, right? Yeah. So you have to understand the context that you're coming into a plant medicine experience and what you're seeking to get out of the experience and what it's actually going to look like. Because most of us that are, you know, with these medicines now and using them, a lot of people using them recreationally, a lot of the people using them for healing and therapy, you're right, 90% is going to be, how do you change the patterns? How do you create new behaviors and habits and integrate what you learned, the epiphany, ecstatic state, and bring it into the grounded reality of your day-to-day and the grounded reality of your relationships? Because what's the number one thing people are working on in the psychedelic experience? Mostly relationships. To self first, to parents, past partners, people we've hurt, people we love, people we want to make right with.
That's right. Or even relationship to career, to money, to purpose, to mission. And you can't transcend if you don't integrate. So I think there needs to be a lot of importance, a lot of focus put on integration. I really hope to see a lot of that, because I just feel like I hear so much about like awareness and things coming in, and it's like, you know, where's the change kind of thing. And I'm sure that goes into many other subjects. You know, I just happen to bring it with, in this case, with psychedelics. But going back to relationships, Kev, you know, you create a ton of content. You've got a book. I'm a content creator as well. And I think that, and sometimes, we'll get like a thank you or a, hey, by the way, this meant a lot. And I'm sure that to you as well as for me, it's like, it's pretty amazing when you receive a little something. And I think a lot of people don't give credit or express because they assume that you hear it all the time. And if we take that into relationships, particularly long-standing relationships, how much do you see that that's something where you have somebody that's been together for a long time and they don't hear the little compliments or the little things from their partner because the partner just assumes that it's already there. They already know how I feel about them. How important is it to say it, vocalize it?
Yes, this is massive. And on one level, the comfortability and the assumption, because you're just in so much intimacy or built up time together, is sacred, and that's beautiful because you can actually get to a deeper layer of like, you almost don't need to say it, and it's going to depend on your love language or how you prefer to receive love, right? But you're absolutely right. This is one of those little shadows and missteps, is not continually bringing the affirmation and the acknowledgement to the masculine, right? Letting him know that, wow, I appreciate your prowess. Thank you for solving that problem. Even if it's a little thing around the house or a tiny thing. Just little things. Masculine wants to be respected, acknowledged for his prowess. He wants to feel needed, and he's a problem solver, right? Makes him feel fucking awesome. For the feminine, acknowledge her beauty, acknowledge her heart, acknowledge her with how she wants to be loved, right? This is the classic, like, buy her flowers, take her out, buy her a gift. There's the kind of stereotypical ways, which still work, by the way. There's stereotypes for a reason. But it's the little subtleties of giving and receiving love for the smallest things that actually add up in the long-term relationships to be the game changers.
Absolutely. By the way, I recently started buying flowers for myself. Nice. I don't know where that came. I mean, I know where it came from. It came from my relationship, but I started getting more and more comfortable with flowers. I started noticing how beautiful flowers were, how there's such an incredible expression of beauty in nature, and they're vibrating so beautiful. And then I see them around the house and I'm like, oh man, I think I really like flowers. I'm just going to start buying flowers for myself.
That's amazing. So, flowers are extremely dope.
Yeah, dude. It's just one of those things where, like, as much as I allowed myself to have feminine qualities, that was one thing that was like, nah, man, like flowers, not chill. Like, for a while, I was like too cool for it. And now it's like, just bring on the flowers, man. I freaking love it. Anyways, Kev, divorce rate has been circling around 50% for a long time. Do you feel that these conversations that we're having, all of this awareness that's being brought by people like yourself, by other creators, by having more therapists, more coaches, more people being aware and having a desire to have improved relationships, do you think this is something that's actually going to improve? Is this a percentage we're going to see decrease?
Yeah, this is an interesting one. I don't think we'll see it decrease until the mainstream conversation becomes around trauma-informed, somatically informed, compatible relating. And it's going to involve polarity. A lot of people, believe in the word polarity. It's like, what the fuck is that? What are you talking about? Aren't these old school gender roles? You're toxic. This is
right.
Patriarchy. I get these comments almost on every video or content I post today, which is a sign of the times. We're in a culture war, and lots up for grabs right now. Rome is burning in some sense. And I think it's actually exciting because that means we can really push the boundaries and change the game in a lot of these areas. Marriage is an institution. It's a contractual agreement. It involves the state. It involves finances. And the way that whole system, that's another podcast, but I just want to speak to it for a second, that whole system probably needs to change on some level. So, and I'm not an expert on that, but I've dabbled in it, and it's freaky when you go down that rabbit hole, just the legal side of marriage. Now let's talk about the actual emotional bond of a committed relationship. Marriage was developed when people lived to be like 30, and women were property. So even the idea of marriage and happily ever after is a Renaissance medieval construct. You can look all this stuff up. Esther Perel is an amazing resource for this.
Yeah.
You can trace that back to 500 years ago. This shit is recent. Now, long-term partnerships and mateships between men and women as a symbiotic survival strategy, that's ancient. So that's, I think, where the rubber meets the road. Divorce rate is just a measure of the mainstream box that men and women and masculine and feminine in relating have been put. And of course, it's going to fail at above 50% at this point because the underlying parameters are bankrupt emotionally, in my view. And we're seeing that, right? We're seeing it play out.
Yeah, so you're basically you're significantly separating divorce from, failure in a relationship or a mateship. They're just two different things. One is based off of marriage, which is created by society, versus a long-term ancient mateship and success there. However, that it measured in a different manner, perhaps.
I mean, divorce is measuring both, so they are definitely connected. There's strong, not just correlation, there's causation there, I would say. Yeah. The distinction I'm just making, though, is that the reason the relationship is failing and then the divorce becomes a big thing is almost compounded by the legal part of it. So the relationship actually failed probably long before the divorce.
Right.
And you see this all the time. The relationship, in terms of juicy, alive, magnetic, sexually available, intimate relationship, has its own lifespan that then gets measured by divorce because two people, brought their lives together and their assets and their family, whatever, and then that has to be, chopped up or whatever. Divorce rates are so high because people are not practicing the art of relating and communication, and their parents didn't know what they were doing, and their parents didn't know, and so we're at an intergenerational. We're kind of getting the bill with the divorce rate of an intergenerational, divide between the masculine and feminine. Why can't we figure this shit out, even though we've been doing it all of human history?
Getting the bill, I like that. Yeah, I like that. Kev, unrelated to love, there's so much talk. Is going back to the money, but just kind of closing out here. But recession, there's so much talk about recession, and there's so much fear around it, and some say it's already happening, and some say it's not really. And we do know there's a ton of inflation. There's a lot of money printing. That's a fact. And I mean, I'm originally from Argentina, so I know what inflation is. Argentina is literally one of the worst in the world today, and across many times since I was born. And now we're seeing it. So it's the first time I see my American friends actually seeing it in action and being like, oh shit, I can't, this exact same thing that I paid this for literally 8 months ago is now this, and so on. What is your personal take on that, whether it's on inflation and like what to do? Like how do you invest your money today? What do you do with your money? Because keeping it in the bank is not good. Cash is king ain't the thing anymore. Cash is trash now, basically.
Yeah, I love this conversation because over the past 2 years, and really the past, probably 16 months, I've been deep in Web3.
Okay.
Learning, practicing, investing, and actually working with an amazing company, High Vibe Network. And so here's the meta take, the macro. And I'm not, none of this is financial advice. I'm a student trying to figure out all this shit, learning from the greats. We are in full-scale financial economic warfare on the planet because the global reserve currency, which since Bretton Woods and the end of World War II has been the USD, by the way, is at risk. And we've got all kinds of stuff going on. We've got China and Russia forming an alliance and gold backing their currency. You have crazy sanctions, all this stuff geopolitically. But the core idea is, what are we going to use for value? Meanwhile, banks and even BlackRock, the biggest asset management fund on earth, is looking at Bitcoin and this whole interesting thing about the blockchain ledger in Satoshi Nakamoto, which popped out, back in 2008, the last recession that we had. That was a big one. We're going to have to change the way we look at money and finance. During 2020 alone, I forget the exact number, someone will check it. The Fed printed 20% of all USD in circulation out of thin air. That's not backed by precious metals. It's not backed by an asset that you can taste or live on, like water, gold, silver, real estate, etc. We've divorced currency and cash, right? The Federal Reserve note, from anything valuable in the real world. And so on a philosophical level, it's bankrupt. On the numbers level, I think the inflation numbers are just the canary in the coal mine. I think we're going to start seeing, I don't think we're going to have catastrophic failures and like, you know, crazy shit like the Great Depression. The world's globalized now and we have tech on our side, and creativity and innovation are way more quantum. Like that couldn't really happen in the 1930s, right? It just was different. So I'm an optimist. I think we're going to get through this. It's going to be fucking awesome. Yes, cash is trash on one level because it's literally losing value. And in a recession, if you look historically, the most millionaires are made, the greatest transfers of wealth happen. So in that sense, you know, if you follow like Ray Dalio or, you know, Kevin O'Leary or some of these, you know, financial big dogs who are now bullish on blockchain also, but understand traditional finance, TradFi like hardcore, cash is king in a recession in terms of liquidity, because you want to be buying and investing. So personally, if I had, you know, millions of assets under management, I'd want to be looking at amazing real estate in hubs that are catching up with global trends in the States. I look at Austin and Miami as maybe some of the main ones because of the influx of innovation, entrepreneurship there. You know, real estate's amazing. You want to have water rights, mineral rights. You want to have land that's arable, ideally, so you can have food. I'd also be looking deeply at Bitcoin and Ethereum. I won't go past them because they're the number 1 and 2, and they have the most traction and use case right now. And, you know, precious metals, I don't really know as much about, but certainly there's value there. And that's kind of what I would be looking at. I also would be an entrepreneur. I would be innovating and creating a business or art or adding value to the world that is in line with my passion, because that's the ultimate asset, is actually getting paid to do what you love.
Love that, Kev. That is awesome. We could rephrase that. Cash is trash if you just leave it sitting in a savings account. That's exactly what trash is. Not if you have a bunch of cash and you do something with it.
Exactly.
For sure. Kev, dude, you're an epic freestyler. You got some great raps. Do you have anything you want to throw down about love, sex, or money?
I love that. I actually was in the studio recently here in Bali, rapping about Web3. But this is a cool one I was playing with. I'll just spoken word it, you know. Decentralized eyes flip the script on TradFi lies. Satoshi's vision was to reprogram value with precision. The mission of blockchain is to lift the nations, give power back to the people, topple the steeples of financial oppression, and actually create a grassroots flipped on the narrative of recession. That's a piece of it. But yeah.
Love that, brother. Love that. Love that. So good, Kev. Man, I love having you on, Kev. I asked you this last time. I asked all of my guests, what are the top 2 traits that a conscious leader must embody? And I'm going to flip that and ask you, what are the top 2 traits that a conscious lover must embody today?
Yeah, excellent question, brother. Really honored to be here with you again, by the way. Yeah, top 2 traits are going to be adaptiveness and certainty. And what I mean by adaptiveness is that you need to learn how to dance between masculine and feminine, more specifically to own your dominant pole. It's not about being 50-50 and being able to switch all the time. It's more about manifesting the best parts of your masculinity or femininity, no matter what kind of body you're in, and just own that. You're going to be a way better lover in the bedroom and, you know, out shopping. Certainty is a part of that, because it's like, once you know yourself, once you have self-awareness and knowledge about your triggers and traumas, and also your desires and kinks and what you want to experience and love, be fucking certain. Have conviction and just go after it. Tell the person what you want. Tell them exactly what you need. And own it. Man or woman, you're going to be way more successful as a lover that way.
Love that. Love that, brother. Well, anybody listening on the pod, you're going to have all the links to follow Kevin, subscribe to his stuff, buy his book, and just listen to all the beautiful things he's got to say. Kev, my man, you truly are a conscious leader, brother. I appreciate you being on. Keep being you, my man. Keep being you. Love you, my man.